Hello, and welcome to SETI Live. I'm your host, Beth Johnson, Communications Specialist here at the SETI Institute. Thank you to our viewers from around the world for joining us. Please let us know where you are watching from. Also, welcome into listeners on the podcast version of SETI Live, which is available on most podcast platforms. It's our last show of the year, and we decided to have some fun today. I'm joined by senior astronomer Seth Shostak to talk about Santa, how he delivers gifts in a single night, how his reindeer fly, and how NORAD ended up tracking him every year. So let's have some fun, shall we? Happy holidays, Seth, and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Beth. It's my first time to be here, although I guess every year I would scan the skies for Santa, but maybe tonight we'll have more luck because we have more people.
That would be kind of fun. So Santa, I think we'll start with sort of the overlying thing here. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, it's magic, but I think we have to refer back to any advanced science will look like magic to people, right? So, what sort of advanced science do we think that Santa has involved in this ability to deliver gifts to everybody in a single night?
I think the hardest thing is finding reindeer who know how to fly. I mean, most of the reindeer I see, for example, in the National Zoo or the San Diego Zoo, I mean, they don't fly. The ones that could fly, I guess, don't stay in the zoo. They're they've gone somewhere else. But I think that's the most impressive thing. There are other impressive things that we can talk about. I mean, how much time does Santa have at each house and that sort of thing? It's really giving him a hard job.
Yeah, so okay. So how do reindeer fly? Is this something we think we can accomplish with science, or is this definitely that's got to be on the magic end of the spectrum?
I think it's probably on the magic end. I mean, I don't want to be radical, but I think it might be. I mean, what you need is either you need some sort of airfoil, you need some sort of wings, right? And most reindeer don't have wings. The ones that do are singled out for special treatment, I guess, and they're put in another cage with a different label. But in order to, I mean, even if you have wings, that's not enough, right? You need some sort of propulsion. You need to put a rocket on the back of those reindeer or a
Hmm.
propeller on the front of the reindeer. And if you don't have either of those, you're just going to sit there causing embarrassment to all concerned.
That would be tragic. We definitely don't want that. Does does Rudolph's red nose, does that really help see through fog?
Well, it might if it were bright enough, right? And it's red, which doesn't get scattered so easily in the atmosphere. So at least it's the right color. But in order to see far enough ahead that you don't fly into mountains or whatever else might impede Santa's progress, you'd need something that's, many thousands of watts at least. And, noses that are at thousands of watts power consumption tend to melt and you just get, sort of a soft nose. It's really, it's really very difficult, I think. I mean, the whole thing is very difficult. And I'm not surprised that on some years, Santa just contracts this out to some, aerospace firm to do it for him.
That would be smart, especially with the increase in, say, like our satellite constellations. Maybe Santa needs to invest in a satellite constellation for gift delivery. Um, so you said you had done some kind of back of the envelope calculations on how long it would take Santa to deliver to all of the houses in the world. So kind of what did you come up with?
Well, to begin with, what you say is true. This is an envelope here, and this is the back, and there are some calculations there. Well, nothing terribly interesting, but I just sort of wondered, how visible would Santa and his reindeer be? Now, part of the problem is if you get very far away, if you get hundreds of miles away from Santa, he's flying over the roofs of some city hundreds of miles away, you probably won't see it because of the curvature of the earth, unless Santa and the reindeer are very high up. But if they are high up, if they were 100 miles away, maybe that's the limit of how far away you could see it. I worked it out that it would be something like a fifth of a minute of arc, for those who know what a minute of arc is. Now, that's a very tiny little spot, right? So all you could hope to see is that if the sled and the reindeer were oriented in such a way that, was bouncing some sunlight in your direction, you might be able to see a bright thing in the sky that's moving around. But the problem is, of course, the sun is not going to be able to do that because Santa does most of his flying at night.
So what you're saying is this behind me is a completely not accurate representation, although it is a good representation of what happens when you're using the transit method to detect something passing in front of another body. So, there is some science here, but no, he wouldn't. Him and his sleigh would not be this big against the full moon, would they?
Well, unless he was just about to make a 4-point landing per reindeer, 4-point landing on your roof, because then it's so close that maybe it would look that big. But if it's as I say, 100 miles away, just a nominal distance, then Santa and the reindeer are going to be a fifth of an arc minute. As I say, for those who know what an arc minute is, that means your eyes would only see a bright point of light on the sky. You wouldn't see any detail. But if you had a good pair of binoculars, maybe you could separate the reindeer from the sleigh and that sort of thing. So, it's not impossible if he's close enough. But if you're on one side of the country, say in the United States, and the Santa is making deliveries in Los Angeles, for example, you're going to have a hard time seeing him. I don't want to discourage anybody from trying, but it's a tough observational problem.
Well, I, definitely think people should give it a shot. I'm going to welcome in some of those people, in fact. So let's see where we've got people watching from. We have New York State, Sweden, welcome in, New Mexico, Scotland, England, Germany, Massachusetts, the southernmost tip of the African continent. Wow, welcome in. Australia, Sweden. Where else have we got? Some Canada, quite a few Canada, Netherlands, Budapest, some more from the UK. So there we go. Lots of all around the world. We're definitely getting a global audience today. So thank you everybody for being here. So one of the things that I kind of found funny, someone commented on our event post on Facebook, and I'm still deeply amused by it. But they said that their explanation here is that Santa is a quantum being. His probabilistic nature means he can be in every house at the same time on Christmas. This is why it's vitally important no one sees him. If he's observed, the probabilities collapse and only one house gets presents. Thank you, Lawrence, for that comment. That is fantastic. What do you say to that, Seth? Does that seem reasonable?
Well, look, quantum mechanics doesn't seem reasonable.
Well,
I mean, you have to be unreasonable to believe it to begin with. But he's right. I mean, you have you can calculate what the probabilities are that Santa is in this house or that house, and it's just a probability. It doesn't tell you that Santa is there. But if you somehow, get out your binoculars and look around to see if you find Santa, if you do find Santa, indeed, then suddenly he's not in every house anymore. He's where you see him.
Well, that could be a problem. So maybe it's a good explanation for the reasoning behind don't stay up and watch for Santa. He won't come if you're awake. Okay.
And if you've not been good, if you've only been bad, he might not come either. So I'm told.
Santa making those judgment calls. Zapfan says that the quantum Santa was a thing on the BBC with a science reporter. So PDMC 333 says Santa can time travel. All right. What's the possibilities on time travel as an explanation?
Well, I mean, that's physics. We don't know. So we don't know how to do time travel except to go forward at the rate of about 1 hour per hour. So we don't know how to travel in time. If we did, I certainly would take advantage of that technology and go back a few years, maybe a few decades, whatever. But no, we don't know how to do that. But that is a possible explanation that Santa, he's only busy for one night, but if he can time travel, he visits the first million houses and then goes back in time so he can start all over with the second million. I think that's a very interesting explanation. We should ask Santa about it.
As long as he doesn't meet himself, it shouldn't be a problem, right? So as long as he's got his route carefully planned, that he will not cross his own path, causality shouldn't be an issue here.
Well, I hope not. I mean, I'm counting on causality to associate any damage to my chimney to Santa so I can, get my money back. So,
That
I was going to
that
say,
brings up another thing. How does he fit through these chimneys?
not well, would be my guess. Somebody suggested, lots of fat rubbed over his body. And he has a lot of fat, but it's on the inside, not the outside. So it isn't going to ease his way down these chimneys. Besides, going down a chimney, I mean, what if you go down a chimney and the family is sitting in front of a fire? And you're going to have roasted Santa. And, that's not a good thing.
And you brought up a cartoon that comes up every year or so, with a chimney sweep finding the remains of Santa in the chimney. So of course, obviously, other people have considered this to be a problem. Do you think that maybe there could be like a specialized material that his suit is made of that would help him slide down the chimney?
I think the best thing you could do to ameliorate this difficulty is to ask Santa to ring the bell or knock on the door. That solves all problems right there.
Breaking and entering, we encourage it for Santa Claus. All right. I'm going to welcome in a few more people, and then I want to talk about my favorite time of year. And let's see. So we've got some people watching from California, from Peru. Welcome in. What else do we have? New Jersey. And that's kind of it. Okay. So, that's a good comment. And all right. So one of the things that I love about this time of year, and I grew up in one of the places I grew up in. I'm an Air Force brat, so one of the places I grew up in was Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we have this wonderful thing that I've been doing since I was little, which is the NORAD Santa Tracker, and this has been active for over 70 years, almost 70 years, I think. So, do you know the history of it, Seth, or should I jump into that?
I think you can jump in. My understanding, which is undoubtedly faulty, was that it was in response to a kid who called up NORAD at some point and wanted to know where Santa was and whether he was being tracked and whether we had sent a missile to take him out.
Almost. You are on the right track. So it was a kid that called in. There was an ad in the Colorado Springs newspaper that had a misprinted phone number, and it was, call and talk to Santa, except that the number actually went to the Continental Air Defense Command. It was 1955. So this is a little bit before NORAD. And the kid called in thinking she was calling Santa Claus because of this promotion. And the Air Force colonel on duty, Harry Shoup, realized that it was a mistake and assured her that they would guarantee that Santa had a safe journey from the North Pole. And it became a tradition. So now they went from answering phone calls and telling them where Santa was to the advent of the internet. And now you can watch in real time as Santa delivers gifts all around the world. So it's kind of a neat little thing. And yeah, but it was started because a little girl made a phone call, and it ended up being to the wrong phone number, but they ran with it. And I think that is one of the more charming aspects of the holiday season, is that it gets people to do things they wouldn't necessarily do for the joy of it, like us doing this here right now.
Well, that's true. Anybody who has studied any of science knows that a lot of the most interesting discoveries were made accidentally, of course. And so sometimes accidents actually help, at least in science, not on the freeway, but in science.
This is true. It's never eureka. It's, oh crap.
Yes.
Well, we're getting some questions in, and let's see. Are you familiar with Doctor Who, Seth?
Well, I didn't watch the whole series. I didn't grow up in the right country to know that Doctor Who was a thing. I saw a couple of the episodes.
So David Fairweather is asking if his sleigh is a Tardis, and that's a really interesting thing. Of course, a Tardis has the whole time and relative dimension in space, so it can actually do time travel properly. But also, the thing about a TARDIS is that it's bigger on the inside, so maybe it's not necessarily that the sleigh is the TARDIS, but I would almost say that the bag of gifts that is on the back right? There's supposed to be a bag of gifts back here. I would say that's the TARDIS because it can hold all the gifts he needs without him having to stop back at the North Pole.
Well, you could just do a simple calculation if you find this edifying in any way of, well, how many people does Santa deliver to? And I figured the number is, 1 or 2 billion, something like that. And that will tell you how big the average gift is. And it turns out it's pretty small, like a salt grain or something. So, things like bicycles and so forth, they're all ruled out because they're not going to fit in that bag.
That's true. That's true. That would make sense. Which doesn't explain my fourth birthday Christmas. Okay. So the other here's another good one. So Michael Larson is asking, how huge would Santa be since he eats milk and cookies at every house? You should calculate his weight gain at Christmas.
Well, I mean, let's say that the milk and cookies weigh 1 pound. Make it simple. And he goes to, let's say, 1 billion houses. I mean, who knows? But, well, that means he will gain 1 billion pounds during this trip, which is a lot. I mean, that makes him eligible for Jenny Craig or something. I mean, he's going to have to do something to slim back down.
I think that it's more likely that I always found that there was like always that one cookie that just had a bite out of it. So I think he just taste tests the cookies. And, as for the milk, depending on how much, milk it is, I would say you're probably drinking mostly water at that point. So, I don't know. Again, it's magic. Maybe he's got a suit. Maybe he shares with the reindeer. He does have 8 hungry reindeer up there who are having to, or 9, depending on the night, who are having to, fly around the world at supersonic speeds. So,
yeah. Depending on the night, is that 9th one Rudolph?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rudolph, what does he have? A strong union contract? He only works certain nights?
Well, I mean, I don't think Santa needs to use him for that bright red light if he's not trying to clear the fog out, right?
Yeah. So if it's not a foggy night, it's not one Christmas foggy night. It's just a clear Christmas night. Yeah.
Like clear Christmas night, like this beautiful picture behind me. It's a clear Christmas night. You can see the stars and take out a telescope and have a good time. Unlike most nights around here this time of year where it's like telescope, no, not even worth my efforts.
You need one of those, very lightweight, transportable telescopes, and you can go look every night. When I was a kid, I had a little telescope, and I tried looking through the windows of the bedroom because it, that's where I was at night, and the glass was so crummy that I had this very mistaken impression of what the planets really looked like and things like that because of the distortions of the glass.
Oh yeah, that would do it. All right, let's see. I like this one. This is a good. So there's a little bit of talk in the background about how using portable black holes, wormholes, this kind of thing to help slow down time or to get from place to place. I like this one. This is just a comment. He uses the cookies to feed the wormhole, or he's traveling so fast he needs the calories.
Yeah. Well, the trouble is, if he's traveling that fast, relativity says that he will be gaining weight, at least as we see him. And that means more cookies, more milk, I suppose.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Relativity. Boy, that's another one of those things that it's difficult to wrap your head around, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I tried wrapping my head around some concept or other, and the problem was that it really hurt my head.
Okay. Fair enough. Here's another interesting question. Not about Santa, but this kind of does come up around this time of year. Can you explain the Star of Bethlehem? Do we have a theory on what that might have been?
Well, believe it or not, there's been quite a bit of ink, a lot of column inches, if you prefer that term, that have been spent trying to answer this question, the Star of Bethlehem. And people will use the software that you can find online, for free these days, sort of a planetarium in software kind of thing. And they would say, okay, I'm going to put myself in the Middle East on this time, at this time, and in the year 0 or whatever. And I guess it wasn't the 0 year zero. But in any case, just to see what the sky looks like and if there's anything bright enough to qualify as a star of Bethlehem. Anybody who's really interested in this should check it out, on the web. You can find that a lot of work has been done on this business. I don't remember any particular answer. I mean, they were hoping to find that maybe Venus or Jupiter would be in the right part of the sky to be considered the star of Bethlehem. But of course, what you really want to do is to interrogate the wise men, and most of them are largely unavailable.
Yes, this is true. It's been a while. It's kind of hard to get those firsthand sources anymore. I think I heard at one point there was an idea that maybe it was a supernova, but I don't know if that would be something we could track back.
Well, yeah, supernova and even ordinary novae, if you will. They leave a lot of debris around if they're not terribly far away. If they're in our galaxy, for example, or nearby to us in our galaxy, you will see what are called supernova remnants. Just bits of crud, dust and gas and so forth left over from the explosion. And in fact, that's a good thing because it allows you to sort of look at that crud and then in your mind run the clock backwards and find out when the supernova occurred. That was an exercise that was done probably in the 1950s for the first time. But yeah, so it's possible to do that in many cases.
And so if that were the case, that someone probably would have found that by now.
Yes, there have been so many articles written about it. I think if there was a consensus as to what the Star of Bethlehem was, then we'd know. And the other thing that I don't know whether I should worry about this or not, if it was above the equator on the sky, right, then that means that there are going to be places in the southern hemisphere that wouldn't be able to see the Star of Bethlehem. But that's okay because they didn't get on their camels or whatever to ride over to find out what all the excitement was about. So I suppose that's not really a problem.
Oh, well, that's fair. That's fair. So Seth, we're kind of getting towards the end of the time. What are your favorite things about the myth of Santa or the holidays themselves? What are you looking forward to? I know you're traveling this year, so that should be fun. But what stands out for you about the holiday season?
Well, I guess that's all influenced by, what it meant when I was a kid, which was largely the fact that you got a break from school, right? And you could do all those projects that you never could really find the time to do during the school year because you're always busy with homework, right? So there was no homework over the Christmas holidays. And you might think that that's a fairly trivial explanation for what I like about Christmas, but it is also accurate. I really found it was good because you do things that might take you a week. And during the school year, it was very difficult to do that. And then, you think, oh, that's okay because you got all summer to do those projects, but not after a certain age because your parents expected you to go get a job, right? That kind of thing. So Christmas was sort of good. They didn't expect you to take a job over the Christmas holidays.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I was expected to work until I was basically done with high school. I think my parents were more of we don't want anything to come in between you and doing high school. So
yeah, I had the same. I had the same in my family. That's true.
Yeah. I've passed that on to my kid. I'm kind of, oh man, he's almost done with high school. Whew. Yeah. So, well, thank you, Seth, for being here today. And, I hope everybody enjoyed. We just wanted to have something lighthearted as we go into a break. We are not going to be doing shows next week so obviously, it's the holiday season and we have the Institute closed for the week. So, we will be back on January 4th and Frank Marchese and I will be kicking off the year to talk about what we are looking forward to and what we can expect from space science next year. So we will be back here for that. And of course, Seth, what is today?
What is today? Let me think. I don't know. Oh, it's the winter solstice. Slipped my mind because, normally I go to some barely civilized part of the world where they celebrate this by dancing around and, lighting up local animals for dinner. So, yes, it's the winter solstice. That means this is the shortest day of the year. So
for us in the Northern Hemisphere, we do have people watching from the Southern Hemisphere. So for you, it's the longest day of the year.
It gives you more time to do whatever
Yep.
you're doing.
So, welcome to winter for those of us up here, and welcome to summer. Stay safe this summer, please, Southern Hemisphere friends, especially those of you in Australia. Oh my goodness, please don't light your continent on fire. From all of us here at the SETI Institute, thank you for watching. Have a happy holiday season. If you celebrate, have a happy time off if you get it. And everybody have a spectacular new year. Let's make it a good one, because this year has kind of been meh. So here's to 2024. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Seth, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Beth.